You are not going to be in enlightenment or expansion, self-awareness without some quiet time. It's not going to happen. You have to spend time with you, do some self-reflection, be willing to have no noise, no phone, no distractions around you to actually understand what is my wiring. You have to do some self-reflection. Hi, welcome back. Vicki, Intuition, your success compass. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you being interested in developing more of your intuition and what that means in creating a life that is happy, that is joyful. And that's one of my intentions of this year, is to bring as many skill sets, as many, pearls of wisdom and experience that I can to you that you could put into place and reinforce that desire to know who you are, to feel great in who you are, to develop your intuition, to then send that out into the world. Because when we're happy, we create that ripple effect that helps others be happy and just lets them know it's possible, is what it feels like to me. And we all have different wiring and experiences and pasts and all of that. And I honor that. But I also know that we're pretty similar as humans. And if we could really embrace that, we'd have less of this conflict going on, but that's a big undertaking. I figure if we do each one of our own intentions, experience, perception, and desire really to be, I think, the best we can be. And I feel like everyone has that intention. It just, maybe the tools aren't there to then bring that to fruition. Or maybe some people are being the best that they can be, and we want them to be something else rather than who they are or what they are. And that's part of today's topic, because we're going to talk about how understanding and embracing your wiring can help you to be happy, to be more joyful, to definitely be more intuitive. Because if you don't embrace the wiring you have, you won't be able to build on and to create more of an ability or multiple abilities. So in the last episode, a couple episodes ago now, that I talked about how intuition is so important to having a happy, joyful life, because we all come in with it. We are all wired with that intuitive knowing first. It's our first sense, our sixth sense. And it just gets educated out of us, or maybe just left behind. I don't always think it's intentional. I think it's just that we became very critical left brain thinkers and forgot about this right brain that we have that is so fascinating and so capable. So I want to talk about wiring, your wiring, my wiring, the wiring of others, because this is something that I do when I first meet with someone. Intuitively, I see a blueprint, and I would not be able to read a blueprint of building a house or doing any kind of measurements. Not this gal's skill set. But I can see a blueprint inside my third eye, inside my mind's eye, of whomever I'm working with or reading. And like, what was the intention of their soul coming in to learn what it wanted to learn, to help the human learn? And also, what is the ability or abilities that the human self carries? And I thought everybody could see this. I thought everybody got that as a way of understanding other people. It definitely helped me realize why I gave people too many chances to show up in their lives and in my life. It wasn't that I was passive, and it wasn't that I was, didn't believe in myself enough to demand better behavior from someone, expected but also demanded. It was that I saw this blueprint and what they were coming in to learn. And yeah, I made their journey more important than my own, but that was on me. That wasn't on someone else. And I had to learn my own wiring to understand that first. Empathically, I feel, see, intuit, hear what's going on with somebody else. And that can make them more of a priority than myself. And this is part of what my soul came in to learn. Part of my own blueprint is to be able to say, no, this is what matters to me. I know what matters to me. I can speak up for what matters to me, and I can feel okay doing it. And I know that's part of my experience to learn the integration of that in my human self and then help others to do it. So it totally makes sense that I ended up in the career path that I feel like chose me, and that continues to evolve as I evolve. So understanding my wiring has helped me be calm in the presence of other people, but it's been incredibly difficult to remind my human self that just because I can see that and just because I can feel other people's pains or what they're going through does not make what they're going through more important than what I feel or what I'm going through. And maybe you can appreciate this because a lot of us who are empathically wired, clairsentient from the beginning, like that clear feeling, can struggle with this, can have a difficult time in separating what is someone else's energies and needs and what are my energies and needs. And it can create like conflict in relationships. And it can also create dynamic in which we get taken advantage of until such point that we wake up and go, hang on, I understand that's my wiring, but that doesn't have to be my deficit. It doesn't have to be where I am in service to others rather than of service. So the concept of wiring is that we all have individual traits. We all have tendencies. We all have a unique recipe that's going on in here. And some of us lean towards savory and some of us lean towards sweet. And some of us really like other people and some of us would rather not people. And some of us are a mix because I am definitely a mix. I am very happy with my own company, don't need to socialize with anyone else until such time that I feel like I really miss people and I want to connect with them. And when I'm with them, I absolutely love it. And when I'm by myself, I absolutely love it. So figuring out your wiring will definitely create a stabilization within yourself and an appreciation within yourself. I feel like the gift that is my wiring and that I often give people is that I see them at such a level that it goes down to those very fibrous, I'm going to be redundant and say fibers, but the very tiny fibers that make them who they are. And then when I describe that to someone and say, this is what I'm seeing, and this is what I feel like you're good at, and this is what could use some work, they're like, how do you know me that well? We just met. And I'm like, well, it's in your blueprint. And I feel like giving someone the blueprint, it's like your blueprint. I shouldn't have to it. I'm like, here's what it is. Now, I can use my blueprint, my wiring and capabilities to help you enhance your blueprint, right? Like we can take you to high speed internet when it's been feeling like two cans in a string or dial up. If anybody out there remembers dial up. So the idea that each person has a unique blueprint, that it does shape our experience, it also shapes how we are and how we interact in the world. It's not in charge of, I do not believe our lives are destined. I do believe in this blueprint, and I know it to be true that we have an outline for our lives as we come in. And then we can edit, we can change, we can move the bathroom. Oh, I thought I wanted 4 bedrooms, didn't need 4 bedrooms. Maybe I only need 3 bedrooms because I would like a larger basement. Whatever. You can move the blueprint of your home around and you can add walls, take walls down. We can create the home environment that is best suited for you because you came in with your initial plan and understanding that there will be adaptations and there will be rewiring that happens. And that's the conscious circuitry I do, because sometimes your wiring that you come in with, listen, all the time, our wiring that we come in with gets impacted and affected by other people's wiring. And sometimes we take on their traits and we take on their beliefs that weren't ours in the beginning. So when I do neuropathway work with someone, I use my wiring, my spidey skills to be able to see where the configuration went wrong and where we can politely ask that wiring to leave and to bring on more of the capability and the skills and the brilliance that you brought in for your experience. So when that appreciation is there for self, brilliance, someone shines, you just shine. I was working with someone the other day, fairly new coaching relationship, and I asked her, where did she feel like she first felt this kind of discord within herself? And it was quite young, which is fairly common. We all have something there. So I said, okay, well, are you okay if we look at that? We are not here to do a blame game. We are here to identify and help it move out, and then bring in your own experience and your own desires for yourself and reinforce that. And it's reinforcing the self-belief. It's reinforcing the actual neuropathways in the brain, because that has to be on board. But it's also bringing forth that knowing that she had within her that had to get put up on a shelf for survival's sake, right? So as we're working through it, I'm using my skills to see where the roadblocks may be, and then helping guiding her through statements and breathing and checking in and all this stuff that goes along with neuropathway work. We were able to connect that an experience she witnessed as a young child, it didn't happen to her, but those are impactful. Those are very impactful. That's why it's important to be selective about what you watch and who you engage with and stuff, because that will go in and impact your wiring. So we were able to take that she had forgotten about. And I said, well, I'm seeing this on the screen. Is there any relevance to that? We were able to take that, honor it, say, yep, that happened. This isn't about denying. It's about pointing towards truth, and ask it to leave her brain. And when we do that, you have to be patient and you have to wait for the wiring to kind of click and take hold. And then I went and got some skills that were hers. Amazing orator, like amazing storyteller, just brilliant. And we replaced the story her brain had been telling her, that was her experience and that she had to be impacted by it and she had to hold on to the trauma of it. And we replaced it with her ability to tell the story of what happened and to come to an understanding of how it did impact her all these years. But it doesn't have to anymore. It can be that thing that happened and that she learned from, and that she has now made a short story that she's considering enhancing and becoming a book. Like, that's the amazing part of who we are and how we're wired. And by understanding that she was so gifted at storytelling that her brain kind of ran away with herself and created more stories on top of stories. And there were tears, there were laughter, but ultimately there was peace. And that is very important. So being able to say to her, do you understand how good you are at storytelling? And often I find I'm pointing out to people things that I think are impressive. And I don't blow smoke. I'm not going to fluff anybody's skirt. I'm not going to say, oh, you're amazing if I think you're a ding. I'm not. I think that's rude. It's not authentic. I'm not going to be rude to you, but I'm also not going to say, yes, you're brilliant in that when I haven't seen evidence of it. I think it's nice to be honest. So when I'm reflecting that to someone, often what they're saying to me is, oh, it's no big deal. So do you have that? I know you do. What is it? What is it that you think is no big deal? That's so easy to do. I literally thought everybody had a movie screen that ran over other people's heads to help them interact with them, to help them connect the dots, to come up with plans. I thought everybody had that. Turns out they don't. We can, but maybe it's not like as evident as mine has been. So when I point out to someone and say, like, wow, you're really good at systems. And they're like, yeah, it's easy. It's not. And anyone who's tried to put together some kind of organizational system or anything and has failed gets that. So often what you think is so easy, can totally roll with it, is actually your brilliance. So this is why it's important to get to know your wiring, to maybe have somebody reflect it to you. So has someone told you in the past, oh, she's so good at, or you overhear someone saying, well, that comes easily to her or him, I would perk up my ears and be like, what'd you say about it? Say more about that. Because it may be that you haven't had the space. Maybe you haven't had the awareness or the time to actually sit in contemplation about what that is. Like, are you someone who does connect with people really easily? Are you someone who connects with animals really easily? Are you someone who can spatially see what has to happen? Like, there's a running joke in my family that I am the strength. I am not the person that is going to tell you how to level that gate or where X goes into Y. I can totally build the bookshelves that come with all those schematics. But more often than not, I'm going to be the person that holds the thing in position. That's why I strength train, while you figure out how to connect the dots, because it just doesn't happen up here. Once I get some muscle memory around it, I can pretty much do it, but not my wiring, not my skill set. And I so admire those that are able to do that and have that spatial concept. Maybe next lifetime. As you explore these ideas or the process of identifying your own traits, it requires self-reflection. It requires getting quiet. You are not going to do, let me be very blunt with you. You are not going to arrive. Do we ever arrive? Be in enlightenment or expansion, self-awareness without some quiet time. It's not going to happen. You have to spend time with you, do some self-reflection, be willing to have no noise, no phone, no distractions around you to actually understand what is my wiring. You have to do some self-reflection, dedicated time for self-reflection. Don't worry. You're actually pretty cool. And people like you. You will like you too if you spend some time with you. That might be through journaling. That may be through going for a walk and contemplating. I learn a lot about myself on my walks with the pooch. It's the time where 50% of the time I listen to a book, and the other 50% of the time I just allow my brain and everything to wander, because I want to have awarenesses. I want to have more information. Wildly curious about my own wiring as well as others. So if you don't spend some time in contemplation or self-reflection, it's always going to be just beyond your fingertips. You're going to feel that it's there, this knowing, this appreciation, this love for yourself, but it's always going to be just beyond your fingertips, and you can't quite grab it because you haven't spent the time to ask questions or understand who you are. And there are many, like, you can use journal prompts. You don't have to sit there with a blank piece of paper. Use some journal prompts. Go get my workbook on how to journal. Very short, only $17. Head over there, get it. But spending time with you is how you will recognize your unique abilities, traits, thought process, how you came to be who you are, maybe even meditation and reflection on any impressions you get from previous lives, like, because we build on ourselves, right? We create who we are from our multiple experiences. If you don't get quiet, it's really hard to download those. And it's really challenging to let go of comparisonitis if you don't know who you are. And if you're not in appreciation that we all have different wiring, and that comparing yourself to others or being compared to others, some parents do that, is getting in the way of you actually knowing who you are. So one of the things I'm always going to say is quiet time, reflective time, pausing, breathing, meditation, walking, nature, always going to be important, because bringing up old stuff, clear space, and being quiet allows that stuff to come up. And this is often why we avoid it, is we're afraid of what's going to come up. And I made a commitment to myself about 5 years ago that up and out is better than holding on to it. To be really gross, I equate it to vomiting. You feel better after you vomit. So up and out, get it up and out. It can come out. It doesn't have to go back in. You don't have to judge it or anything. You could just say, yeah, I remember that, or I was aware of that. This is why therapy is so brilliant, but doing any type of this will help you understand your wiring and your unique combination of cells and your connection to that joyful life. Because once you appreciate that about yourself, you'll stop looking to carbon copy other people trying to get that joy. Well, they were happy when they got here. They were happy when they had this. Well, that's them. And you're you. And you owe it to you to know what that is that creates happiness within you. Just this morning, I had someone suggest to me that I take a different path with my business because that would bring me joy. And immediately I was like, no, it would not. That of which you're suggesting, I appreciate it that you see that I have those skills. No, that would not bring me joy. It would tighten me up and bring me into stress. And I'm grateful that someone else sees those skills within me, but I can apply those skills in a different way. It doesn't have to be how they saw it. And I know that she absolutely appreciates that I'm not going to just take something and run with it because somebody said I was good at it, nor should you take something and run with it because I say you're good at it. But I do have a track record. So the ability to appreciate where you are leads to that happy. So often we're running and in so much movement and busyness that we don't pause to appreciate where we are and create the acceptance of what's going on, how it's going, and how it could improve. And it can get overwhelming. There's so many things to look at. But if you're recognizing that your time with yourself, your appreciation of your own wiring, and the commitment to being present, which is so much harder. There's all these books, just be present, or messages, be present, just be present. It's difficult to do that. It takes a lot of presence to be present. It just does. A lot of practice, a lot of wiring your brain, which is what we're discussing here. And one of the things that I do to help myself in my wiring is, I love Magic Mind. I take my little 2-ounce shot every day, and that helps me because so much of this content creating and bringing podcasts and newsletters and courses and worksheets and all of that, it takes a lot of creativity and it takes a lot of effort, which I'm so happy to do. But that's why I take Magic Mind, because it was the thing that I took, walked away from, came back to, kind of like spinning. I used to ride the bike a lot. I took a couple year hiatus and now I'm back to it and absolutely loving it. Magic Mind has done that same thing. It's reminded me that I can have the support for my mind, for my body, for my energy levels in this little 2-ounce jar that I'm so grateful. I'm about to take a road trip that's going to require a lot of focus, a lot of driving. So happy to do it, to help somebody out, to have the experience. You better believe those magic minds are going with me, and I'm taking them for my traveling buddies too. Maybe not the dog. I think the dog will do fine. But one of the things that I so appreciate about it is it helps me catch when somebody says something and the content that I want to bring into the world and not have it be frivolous. I want it to have meaning and to create and help provide tools. And Magic Mind does that for me. And I know it's the ashwagandha because I happen to respond really well to ashwagandha. I love it. My body loves it. But it helps me focus in a way that doesn't feel jittery. And I recommend it. Obviously, I recommend it. And you can go to magicmind.com/JanVicki20. And then the code is VickiB20. And if you sign up for the 3-month subscription, which I recommend because you'll get focused, but you'll also forget to order it. So sign up for the 3-month, you'll get a month free. And then if you use my code VickiB20, and if you forget it, just contact me. I'll give it to you. You'll get an extra 20% off, which means you get 75% off. And this is only to the end of January. So chop, chop. They're also in all the Sprout stores. We don't have those around us, but perhaps they're around you. And you can just pop in and get yourself some and then be right there on your way to focus, calm, connection, and have your wiring firing in a way that's supportive to you. Because in order to understand your unique blueprint, we have to be healthy in our physical body too. I think I have noticed that when I'm leaning more towards the crap and not drinking as much water or taking care of myself, leaning more on coffee and carbs, the 2 C's, right? When somebody says CCU, well, coffee and carbs, that's what it means to me, rather than supporting my wiring. And this is one of the ways that I get my water in, my supplements like Magic Mind, is I'm like, okay, I want my wiring to be optimal because I want to experience everything there is to experience in this world for me. So it can be difficult in our world to step out there and say, this is my wiring, but it's getting more available, I think more accepted as the, Gen Z, Gen A, what are we calling them after that? I can't remember. They're just so lovely about who they are and how they are in the world. So grateful to the millennials that are raising them and helping them to be these amazing people. And some of like my generation's Gen X who are taking a more mindful approach to parenting because we didn't see that. So it's all about learning from what you experience, but don't want to experience again, and understanding how you can contribute. So it is becoming more widespoken that you do you, boo. I love that expression because it's kinder, I think, than not my monkey's not my circus, because that seems like, oh, I don't have to pay attention to, I don't need to pay attention to racism. I don't need to pay attention to xenophobia. I don't need to pay attention to homophobia because that doesn't involve me. No, it does, because you're part of humanity and you're a human with a soul contributing. So all of it matters to us. And the more you understand your own wiring, the more you'll know how to be accepting of others. I have seen this happen. I have worked with people who you would think wouldn't come to me because I'm going to call them on their BS, but maybe that's why they come to me, is to call them on their BS, and will say things that are inappropriate. And I have said, I will cancel our coaching right now. I will not be a part of this. Doesn't matter that the electric bill is due and I need to pay it. It does not matter to me. Spirit will provide in some way, and I will show up for another client in a different who's in more of alignment. And I've seen people shift because my wiring is no tolerance there. But I also want to understand how you got there. And is that truly your feeling? Because if that's truly your feeling, you got to go find somebody else. But if it's something you want to understand how that got installed as well, I am your gal for that because I will be in compassion while not allowing it in my sessions. So that's what understanding and embracing the idea that it doesn't matter what someone else thinks of me, it matters what I think of me. Because you're the one spending all that time in your body with you. You take you wherever you go. Wouldn't it make sense that if you embraced your wiring and you accepted who you were and you realize that there's things to grow and change and expand on always, even when we croak, we're expanding and we're learning and we're growing. So this process of overcoming your self-doubts and learning to appreciate you will have you paying attention less to the voices over here. I promise you. I've done this. I've done this in my own life with my people around me, with the expectations of others. And you know what? Nobody really lost their stuffing. Somebody might, but in your circle, but that's all the more reason to know who you are. If somebody wants to hold that much control over telling you who you are, that's a big old red flag. So understanding and appreciating how you came to be in this world, who you are, but also who you want to be can be a lot of fun. And there's a couple things you could do. You can take a strength assessment. You can do a human design. You can do your Enneagram. You can meet with someone like myself who says, well, this is what I see. Does this feel like it resonates? And how can we enhance on that? There's so many ways that you can learn who you are. You don't have to, even though I'm going to emphasize time with self, you don't have to go out on a sabbatical on a 500-mile hike, although good for you if you want to. I watch all the videos on YouTube about that. You don't have to sit on a mountainside and ohm for hours on end. You don't have to go to a quote unquote spiritual place in order to connect with this. Wherever you are, you can do this. I would suggest that you, again, ask people around you, what do you see as my superpower? Like, what are my skills? Please ask those that appreciate you, but who are also going to be honest and aren't going to, fluff your skirt. It's important to take in both what feels supportive and what doesn't feel supportive, like, or positive and negative, although I don't love those words. I once had somebody tell me I was so competitive. She felt like I was so competitive. And I'm like, I just don't feel like that's true. And then years later, I realized I was really competitive with myself. And I feel like the perfectionist in her was feeling that in me, like I was being that towards myself. Because I don't know, even if I'm playing a game, I love when the other person wins. It doesn't faze me in the least if somebody beats me at Scrabble or pickleball or in a sprint. It doesn't faze me in the least, doesn't bother me at all. But she was right. She was absolutely correct. And taking that feedback helped me recognize it later. Like I took what she had to say, and at the time I said, I just don't think that's true. But it's because she was saying I was competitive with others. And I knew that not to be me, but she was also correct. And years later, I figured that out. And I remember thinking, oh, dang, she got that. And I'm so grateful because it was in my awareness to recognize when I was doing damage to my body, trying to be further along than it was ready to be. So that was awesome. Her feedback helped me greatly. I think of that some days when my judge is showing up and being pretty critical of me. I'm like, you're being competitive with yourself, and that's not going to get us anywhere. So again, the mindful observation, but maybe check into where your core values are. What's important to you? Integrity is really important to me. So if I foobar something, I will admit it and I will do my best to change it. Excuse me. She knows. Eh, So knowing who you are, you also need to know what your values are and what matters to you, because that will help you see if you're living in alignment with your wiring, and you're also bringing the best to your wiring. Like if you're someone who is wildly creative and able to connect dots and loves a good plan, you could do equally well in IT and in art production, right? Like knowing your wiring, you could then decide, well, what feels right? Or what do I want to do right now? Maybe you change your mind. That's fantastic. Don't think we were meant to have careers. I honestly believe we were meant to explore and expand and be Renaissance our entire lives with some responsibility thrown in there. So I'm going to encourage you to pay attention to your own wiring, obviously reflect on it, learn to embrace it and not judge it. Because anything that you're coming up with judgment around, there's likely the opposite support that you can bring in, right? Like if you acknowledge judgment about something, oh, I'm just not good at that. Like my spatial concepts. I used to beat myself up about it, but then I realized, you know what? I can see all these other realms. It's okay that I can see this one as long as I drive safely and I don't put myself in peril. So instead of beating myself up, I recognize that no, you don't want me measuring something, but give me a project like needle felting that has a lot of flexibility and I can be very creative. I can bring out the best of myself in that way. So look to those things. If your brain comes up with a judgment, say, yeah, and there must be an opposite to this. So what am I actually good at? And that, it'll just be a way to be kind to yourself and to learn a little bit more about who you are. Okay. If you need help, I'm here, VickiBaird.com, Vicki Baird Coaching, all the social media platforms. Reach out, send an email, text. I have a lot of birds around here. If you can figure out how to get the carrier pigeon, I would accept one of those too. I'm grateful that you are here, that you subscribe and you like and you comment the podcast. It keeps me going. It helps me know what other topics would be helpful to you. Because all of this, everything I talk about, every topic that comes on here, the intention is for you to really like who you are so that you may live your happy, whatever that means. Take care. See you in the next episode. Thank you for listening to this episode of Intuition, Your Success Compass. I appreciate you being here. If you would like more information about developing your intuitive skills, removing those blocks, and creating the life that feels the most successful to you, then head on over to VickiBaird.com. That's VickiBaird.com. And check out the courses, the groups, and the Spaces app that will allow you to be part of our community and know about upcoming events and specials. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.